no public at the moment, right?
No.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we do have a quorum of board members. I do believe all employees are on the line who need to be. So whenever you're ready.
Okay. I am ready. So we'll start out with, I'm calling to order this regular scheduling meeting of the Mission Springs Water District Board of Directors on Thursday, April 16th, 2020. Today's meeting is being conducted pursuant to the Governor's Executive Order number N-29-20 as a video teleconferencing meeting. So we will start with roll call, please.
Director Sewell.
Here.
Director Martin.
Here.
Director Grasha.
Here.
Sorry, guys. Give me just a moment.
No, it's fine. If there was public, I would have said more too.
Vice President Duncan. Thank you. And President Wright.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Okay, thank you. So first we're going to go do number 3, which is a public input. And there's no public at the moment, correct?
That is correct.
Ashley.
Oh, Ashley. That's
Ashley,
right.
do you wish to address the board in public comment with public input?
No, thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
welcome, Ashley. Okay, so we'll
Thank
go
you
on
very
to
much.
item number 4, the COVID-19 update. Just a status report, and I will turn this over to our general manager, Arden Wallum.
Thank you, Nancy. Am I on now?
Yes.
Okay. I want to, of course, begin by thanking my staff for the work that they've done during this, terrible pandemic. MSWD has always had excellent staff, but I think MSWD staff now and overall is the most qualified and hardworking staff in our history. We intentionally placed this on the agenda first, knowing that it is on the minds of everyone, and it should be. In all of our emergency planning, we've worked to be prepared for many things, but nothing like this. This pandemic is unique and complicated. The pandemic touches our personal and work lives in every way, but I think we've done everything we know possible to work through this very contagious disease. So providing a safe and reliable water supply to our communities is an essential service, and our staff has embraced this challenge to be sure that we are doing everything we know to get through this pandemic. And I just want everyone to know that one of my first priorities is to make sure that our staff is safe. Basically, a safe, reliable water supply to our communities is an essential service, and our staff has embraced this challenge to be sure that we're doing everything we know to get us through this pandemic. I want to be as thorough as possible, so I will have all the departments report on what they are doing, starting with Brian Macy. Each speaker will then introduce the next speaker. You'll hear from 4 individuals that can provide you with information regarding what we have done and are doing. And I will elaborate more in my general manager report. And hopefully at the end of the meeting, we will have answered questions and received direction from you on any additional things that you would like us to do. We will get through this together. Brian, you can make your presentation.
Thank you, Arden. Just first want to recap the definition of our being an essential service. We are in water and wastewater activities. So that makes us an essential service by an executive order that was given by Governor Newsom, Executive Order N-33-20, which considered us an essential critical infrastructure workers. Again, on March 22nd, the President of the United States approved the Master Disaster Declaration, FEMA-4482-DR-CA, which is for the COVID pandemic. It's a major disaster declaration which authorizes the Federal Emergency Management Agency Public Assistance Program. On the 23rd, MSWD had a special board meeting where we ourselves declared an emergency, as well as we opened up our Emergency Operations Center at level 3, which is the lowest activation level. We have dedicated one person or one staff member to be facilitate and have open communication with Riverside County for resources if needed. To date, no resources have been requested by MSWD. Our staffs have been doing a fantastic job keeping up in what we would consider a split schedule. Other things that we did, we closed the lobby immediately on March 16th. Again, going back to the split schedule that we started also on the 16th. By split schedule, we operate in what we consider Team A and Team B. That is based on a 9 workday to 80-hour schedule, which allows us to alternate Fridays. Since we already had established Team A's and B, because of that schedule, we simply went to week on, week off. What we thought was a critical need was make sure that we limited the opportunity for cross-contamination. This split schedule, week on, week off, allowed that. Not only are we washing down our offices twice a week during the work week, but we also do it once over the weekend. So by having a week on and week off, we have been able to limit the cross-contamination. Knocking on wood, we have not had any COVID-19 sicknesses to date from either our staff or our families. So we're very proud of that. That's sort of what we're doing from an internal perspective. I'll ask Victoria to talk about public outreach.
Give me a moment. I'm trying to unmute her mic. There we go.
Okay. I realized I was also muted on my end. Okay, thank you for the introduction, Brian. So talking about public outreach items that we have done today, or to date, excuse me, include some of this is probably old news. You probably heard about this at our last board meeting, but nonetheless, for the sake of any public that may watch this afterwards, I'll cover it now. So we launched a coronavirus-specific webpage on our website, mswd.org/coronavirus. This coronavirus page will link to our 3 press releases that we have issued since the start of COVID-19. This will include our operational changes press release, the declaration of the local emergency, and opening of the EOC press release, and then the generic press release, the very first press release that we issued talking about water quality and how your tap water is safe to drink. That was the first one that we issued. Also on this page, you'll find a frequently asked questions PDF document that talks about also water treatment and different aspects of water and wastewater. What we've also done since then is almost daily updates, which can also be found at the bottom of the mswd.org/coronavirus page. A last one being April 14, first one going all the way back to March 19. And this is a recap of MSWD functions, any local or county-related functions, state-related functions, and then federal-related functions. And this goes through different news happenings, water-related or non-water-related, that are pertinent to the situation that we're all facing today. And let me see. Recently, there's been a few different components as well. And if you'd like to see some examples of this, I'll probably touch on it in the public affairs report, item number 12. But these graphics, most of you have seen via email, but they're also included in the board packet. We had a billboard that went up this week, and that billboard has the message, we are in this together, your tap water is safe. So that went up this week and will stay up most likely through the end of May. And then we'll switch that out with, if everything starts to go back to normal, if and when, right, then we'll do another like progressive message leading out of that. What we also did was a bill message. So on the bottom of every bill, we have a text box capability, and we didn't have anything in that text box at this time. So what we placed in there was similar to the different press releases that we issued: ways to pay your bill, the reassurance that their top water is safe, and redirecting them to the MSWD.org coronavirus page. And then, since we're deemed an essential service, our team continues to work for you, that they could count on us. So your typical reassuring message. So we added that to the bill. So that any bills going out this month will have that component. What we also did for this month's bill is a buck slip, or an insert, which is just your typical 1/3 of a page. Almost like the size of an envelope, right? Your generic insert that goes into a page. And this is a list of emergency resources and numbers that individuals could call. And it's broken down between, police and sheriff, but then we also have a food assistance section, a utilities section, and a mental health section with numbers that individuals could call, considering isolation, things of that nature. On the back side of that insert, was the MSWD billboard that I talked about. So we were able to promote that billboard, that reassuring message that we're going to get through this together in the bill as well. And I believe those are all of the different outreach components. If I've forgotten anything, I'm sure Brian or the general manager could let you know. But we are working diligently, of course, monitoring social media and making sure that these same messages that we're doing from a bill or an outreach, a physical outreach perspective, are also being done through the internet. So whether that's Nextdoor or Facebook. So making sure that we're touching all mediums and avenues to reach our customers. That is all I have. I believe I'm transferring to,
I believe it's Danny.
okay, Danny, from an operations point of view. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Danny.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This has been challenging, working through the modified work schedule that Brian outlined. We jokingly say it's Friday every day because we work with a half a team on our Fridays on. So doing that every day is challenging. Trying to do that and still communicate with our teams remotely is challenging, but the operations team are doing their best, and I think they're doing a great job, so I really commend them for doing that. We focus on our essential functions as far as all of the operational departments. Our production team in charge of our wells and our reservoirs are maintaining the chlorine runs, ensuring that we've got the proper pre-treatment and our wellheads, ensuring that our reservoirs through our SCADA systems are still full, serving the public. The necessary maintenance in that department is being performed. Regulatory sampling is a key thing that we do each week throughout the entire system. So those are some challenging times, as well as trying to still maintain as far as the pickup, when still working the pickups with our lab. The construction and maintenance department are performing the necessary maintenance in the departments, as well as far as equipment and the water and sewer systems out there with the collections and the distribution of water systems. Addressing emergencies such as leaks. Our wastewater department, our operators are maintaining our plants as well as our collection system. So it's challenging with half a crew, but they're doing a great job. I really want to say thank you to Bassam and all of the operational staff that we have here at the district. As far as responding with, as Brian put it, with masks, we're going a step further. We have to go out there and take extra vehicles because there's one person per vehicle. So sometimes that's challenging. It becomes challenging when we're inside trenches, as often close quarters, you can't maintain 6 feet away. So we're doing our best to respect that and make sure that our staff is safe as we're out there taking care of our water and sewer system. That's all I have.
Thank you. Matt, I'm thinking that's you.
Can you hear me okay, Dory?
Yes, thank you.
That was the fourth one? Okay. So now we'll go, anybody have any questions?
I think we've got Matt next, correct?
Oh, we have another one. I'm sorry. I thought
Yes.
you said Matt. Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
We can't see
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Danny and Dory. As Brian mentioned earlier, we have closed our lobby. We're not open to the public. Obviously, that is a large change for the district. That lobby's been open since our inception, but we are surprisingly accommodating well. Everything is still functioning. We're still able to take payments. We're obviously seeing a shift in payments away from cash and check and walk-in traffic, and obviously more toward the electronic options that we offer. We happen to offer 6 payment options in addition to walking in the lobby. We have a IVR system, which is an interactive voice response system, which allows customers to call in to a telephone number and pay with a credit card their water bill over the phone. We have the Pay Near Me service, which allows customers to make payments on their bill via a barcode that is on the bill at a 7-Eleven store, a Family Dollar, and I believe those are the only 2 that are in Desert Hot Springs, but there are other options that they offer, even out of town. If they're out of town, they can still pay their water bill. Obviously, our website, they can log into and make payments and or maintain their account. We have a Safe Pay program, which is directly taken from a bank account that is set up by a customer. We have a check-free service, which is when the customer sets up a bill pay process through their banking system, and then their banking system basically sends us a check digitally for their bill. And we also still have the drop box out front, so even if somebody does show up and need to pay their bill, they can leave it in the drop box and we deposit that daily. We are fielding a lot of calls related to the lobby being closed and the COVID-19 issue. We are accommodating the cash-only customers. Some people in this town don't have a bank account, therefore cannot use any of the electronic options available, but they can still bring their funds to the drop box and we can still keep their bill current even with cash. We are fielding a lot of calls about people that aren't necessarily tech savvy, having issues with logging into the website and paying their bill, and explaining to them that we are not turning off any water at this point in time per governor's order. So there are a lot of calls still happening, a lot of transactions still happening, and everything seems to be accommodated so far. We really don't know the trends. Obviously, when we say we're not going to shut off any water, it begs a few questions as to how many people are going to abuse this and not pay their bill and so on and so forth. We really won't know that probably for another month or so. The nature of our billing cycle is that once a meter is read, the bill goes out probably 2 weeks after that. The bill is due 3 to 4 weeks after that, and then obviously you see that there's a lengthy cycle. And so being that we're only 3 to 4 weeks into this, we're not going to know exactly how these late fees are stacking up and or accounts are or aren't being paid for a little bit more time. But all of my staff is aware of this, and we will be watching it closely as it unfolds, and obviously reporting any issues to the board if need be. As far as cash. There's always concern in situations like this when the economy is doing what it's doing, that we have enough cash on hand to maintain operations. We do, in short. As recently as 1:30 this afternoon, I was on calls with BlackRock, and they are doing a fine job of preserving our principal in all of our investment accounts, and all payroll and accounts payable are being paid as expected, and everything is functioning well. The only other slight update I have is that we are continuing our AMI, a meter changeout project. Even with the COVID, being that this register issue is such a big issue and essential, obviously, for water service, we are continuing this project so as to stay on our project timeline of completing sometime in June. And that project is proceeding as planned. All of the contractors, we have daily conversations about PPE, and we've amended some of their procedures. We're no longer knocking on doors to accommodate the social distancing requirements, but we are, or they are, managing to keep the project going. And that completes my report. I can answer any questions.
By a show of hands, does anybody have any questions for anyone who gave a report?
Nope, I don't think. So, okay, thank you, everybody, for your report. It's a tough time, and thanks for all you guys are doing, all that stuff doing, and it seems to be working quite well. So thanks for keeping us in compliance. So if nothing else on that one, we'll go to item number 5, Human Relations Committee report. Randy, I know you were chair. Who's going to give the report? Arden, Randy?
Yeah. Hold on.
Arden, I'll give it to
No,
you.
let me begin.
Okay.
All right.
Are you ready? Go for it. You're on.
All right. Are we up? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm going to, what I will do is give you just a brief introduction. Then Brian is going to present to the board, some of the issues that were, because it was just a committee report. He's going to present to the board what was actually, said at the, or not exactly said, but go over what was done at the committee meeting. And then Randy's going to provide you with the recommendation of the committee. So let me begin by answering a question I know is going to be asked. We do not have a union. And this hopefully is because of our great relationship with the staff and the board's willingness to hear their requests. They always have been. On the other side, too, the staff has historically worked with the district during hard economic times and voluntarily keeping their requests down in order to keep our costs down. I'm very proud of the great individuals we have at this district. The process is informal, and this is a committee report that will be considered during the budget process. So you don't really have to take any action today. And with that, I'm going to let you begin, Brian.
Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. So I want to mention some of the things. This process is actually part of the budget process. It's one of the first things that we do. It is not new. It's actually been in place even longer than most of our employees have been with the district, greater than 20 years. Again, we are not a union shop. Our employees are not represented. Process, again, part of the budget process serves an opportunity for the staff to tell management what is important to them, any ideas that or ways that we can improve our benefit package to keep MSWD competitive in the industry. Some of these ideas or inquiries can be as simple as a new building, for example, which was shared with us, as well as any wage and benefit types of things. To put this in perspective and how far we've been in this process started about 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks ago, we were celebrating the gold medal that we received for water quality. To me, that seemed like 6 months ago, not 6 weeks ago. But at that particular time, we had 16 inquiries or ideas. that were shared with the management team. And by inquiries or ideas, it's simply somebody raising their hand and saying, hey, look, we'd like to have a bathroom at this well site or this treatment facility, or maybe our safety shirt's a little bit different. That's the type of things that we had. But we also had other things that had implications to some of our finances in the budget. So the process after we have this inquiries meeting is then the management staff and the human resources specialist sits down and evaluates these inquiries. We use basically as a criteria past board feedback, legal guidance, and the labor and market conditions that are out there to move things forward. In this particular year, this particular cycle, we took 3 items to the committee. They were a cost of living adjustments, which is pretty standard, an increase in deferred compensation match. This is roughly for a 401k, or excuse me, a 458 or 457 match of 3% to 4%, an increase of 1%. And the last request or idea that moved forward was to allow employee compensation time for non-exempt employees or hourly employees the opportunity to take their overtime work and use that as comp time or compensation for extra vacation. Those were the 3 points that were discussed by the committee. In addition to the staff report that's in front of you, the meeting minutes from that Human Relations Committee meeting, as well as the 3 inquiries or ideas and their financial impact as a summary sheet that's also included in that staff report. The Human Relations Committee is, as we mentioned, made up of 2 board members. This year it was Vice President Duncan and Director Martin. And with that, I would turn it over to Vice President Duncan.
Okay, well, that was most of my presentation right there. So, yeah, what the committee brought to us was 3 items. Cost of living adjustment, and that was based, I got clarification from that, Ontario Riverside Summer region for the COLA. An increased match from 3 to 4% for the Lincoln 457s, and then employee comp time. And with that comp time, what they're looking for when they work, let's say an hour overtime, right now they're getting paid an hour and a half. They get time and a half. What they're looking for, the option is for every hour they work overtime now, they're compensated an hour and a half. But what they're looking for is to bank that time until they accumulate a day, 2 days, 5 days, whatever, and then take a few days off rather than being paid the time and a half. It works out, it's a wash for the district. There's no extra cost. In fact, it may even wind up being a cost savings if you figure somebody is gone for a half a day and they come back and they've still got the same amount of work set in front of them they need to get done. We'll get that work out of them. So it's a wash. I got a chance to meet with Russ after that meeting, and we kind of really went over these 3 things in detail. I don't think I need to really give a presentation on the economy, the whole world right now, this whole COVID thing, the multi-millions of unemployment claims going in every month. So what we came up with was, right now, the committee recommends on those 3 items, no for the cost of living adjustment, no on the increase for the match. Since the comp time, money to hours, is a wash for the district, I think that should be an option for the employees. But that comes with a caveat or a stipulation or whatever you want, 1 year max. We can't have people accumulating sick time, vacation time, and overtime time, if you will, and wind up being gone for 6 months at district expense. So it's got to be a 1 year, use it or lose it. I think that's reasonable. I think that's fair. And that's what the committee wants to recommend to the board for approval. I thought we were voting on this Monday, not on Okay, because Arden said during financial or budget review. But I thought we voted on this now. But anyway, that's our recommendation, is to give the employees the option for comp time rather than overtime pay.
Yeah, where this comes into play is really during the budget process. The board could give you direction, I suppose, on Monday, but, you know, it really comes into play when you put the budget together. And that's when, sometimes the board has given us direction, sometimes they haven't. In this case, I might recommend that we, keep your recommendation in place, and then we take a look at what the budget has to offer, and you can make your decision then. I mean, it's relative to the
Usually, though, we vote on it at a board meeting. So usually we vote on it like Monday. We'll be voting on what we recommend, and then it goes into the budget.
Yeah, and I don't see any, I'm sorry, Russ, didn't mean to cut you off. I don't see any big changes in the whole country's economy between now and June or July for budget time. So, but it's still always, it can always be up for review. That's fine.
Yeah, mid-year review.
Yes.
Russ, did you have something to say?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, I thought the way it was worded in the document was a little odd, and that is, and I agree with Randy in that it should result in a cost savings. I don't understand the term being offset, because unless we're talking about, because on the one hand, they'll be submitting an overtime, which costs money, and instead they would be asking for comp time off, which would mean that money was not spent. So I thought that was a weird, an odd way of phrasing it. I still don't understand why that would be an offset as opposed to just a straight savings. The other thing that needs to be addressed is what happens at the end of the year if they don't use the comp time that they had banked. At the end of the year, I would assume they would get paid for it. Is that correct?
No, they're going to have to decide. You want?
No, I mean, I understand that, but I mean, at the end of the year, circumstances may have been that they couldn't take the time off or whatever it is. If they've got banked comp time off at the end of the year, would they not get paid the overtime that they did not? It would seem to me they would, but that's.
By a show of hands, Brian or Matt, who wants to field that? Matt? I believe I unmuted you, Matt.
Yes, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not to get into the weeds of that, what you're saying is accurate, Director Martin, but staff is going to have to come up with an entire policy before we can implement this program, and that policy will be brought back to you, and we'll go through that in detail. So there's not, you're gonna know about all of the details before it goes into effect.
The other thing I want to reinforce what Vice President Duncan said is that clearly this is not the time with the community. All of the people in the entire country suffering big time, and it strikes especially at the heart of a community that's classified as a disadvantaged community. This is not the time to be giving cost of living increases. However, I would be open to reviewing that periodically once things get back to normal and making adjustments at that time. But again, that's something to be determined at a later time. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I was looking at the minutes of your meeting, and I see that Matt also recommends not to spend any more money than necessary at this point in time, even if it has to do with staff, because it's unprecedented. We don't know what it's going to do to our budget. We will eventually get our ratepayers' money and get our tax money, but we don't know if there's going to be lulls in that or what's going to happen there. So I agree with Matt on that one. So anyway, so we can vote on this on Monday, what we would like to do. So it sounds like we're more voting, if we choose to pick the one, the overtime one, it sounds like we're just kind of voting on having a policy made. Is that first? Would that be the first thing that would happen? Matt?
Yes, if you're asking me, Director
Yeah.
Wright, that would be the recommendation, is that we, if you guys give us direction today, we will create and work with a policy and bring that policy back to you when it's complete for consideration.
Okay, and it is more or less a wash, and it sounds like it's something that would help benefit the employees without costing the district anything.
Right. There is one weird scenario where it would cost the district a little bit, and it wouldn't be much. If somebody banked 20 hours now, 6 months from now, they still have those 20 hours, they decide to cash out then, and in the meantime, they've been promoted. At what rate do they get those 20 hours?
Well, well, I guess the policy would say if there's a cash out. I didn't hear cash out in anything you guys said. It's use it or you lose it is what I heard.
Yeah, I think in a policy, it really needs to be, because we're giving the employees to go from an option to just get cashed out to bank the time to take additional time off, which is fine. But if you go from, I don't want to cash out, I want the time, and then in a year, go back to, oh, well, I'd rather have the cash out, that's a lot of added bookkeeping and bookwork that I think we need to avoid somehow.
Okay, but they can also take the option of taking the 2 or 3 hours at a time without,
Oh, sure.
without accumulating the days. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, I think years ago, that's what they used to do. They'd work overtime a couple hours, and then someday, down the line, a week or two later, they needed a couple hours and they would take the couple hours.
Afternoon, whatever. Yeah, that's fine. That's great. But there has to be a time cap on it. If use it or lose it after a year and a half, whatever.
Okay, Steve, do you have anything to say? Any questions or comments?
Hold on just a moment.
Oh,
Go ahead, Mr. Director Grasha, you're unmuted.
do you have any comments or questions on this item?
It sounds like a can of worms that I don't want to say no to a COLA increase, although I wouldn't vote for one either. I'd like, sounds like Matt wants to put this in his drawer too. So maybe we could bring this back in September and talk about it again and have more information on our financial position about that time.
Okay, thanks for your comment. So if no other questions or
How
comments.
about Ivan?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ivan. I can see Ivan, so. Okay. Go ahead, Ivan. Just raise your hand if you want to say that.
I'm kind of along the same lines of Russ and Director Joshua as far as revisiting it, maybe September, October, to see where the economy's at as far as the COLA. That third item, financially sounds good, but I'd like to see the policy as far as how much more work there'll be on accounting, and if you were to build up a week's time and then the district needs that employee, how does that exactly work as far as their immediate manager would approve the time off or not? So I'm up for it. I'd just like to see how the policy would work out.
Well, maybe it might be a good idea, instead of taking the time to write out a full policy, to just maybe give some highlights of what, of what you would like to see in it to begin with, just to kind of, without spending all the time and effort on a policy if what's in the policy we're not gonna like anyway. So, but I would like to know what would go into that policy. So, okay, and I'm thinking more mid-year budget review. That's in what, January? So I think that might be a better timeline for this than even September, October, because if we do get any extra money in from grant money for helping us, get through this, you're not going to get it till probably then anyway. You know, I wouldn't guess it would come rolling in too quickly. So anyway, okay. Any other comments or questions on that topic? Do you have any more, Dory, I keep forgetting about that waiting room.
No.
Okay, so we'll move on and we'll go to item number 6, which is contract agreement with AES Water Inc. for seismic valve controller installations. It's recommended to authorize the general manager to approve the contract service for a not to exceed amount of $229,241.60 plus a 10% contingency, which brings it up to $252,166,000, and allow the general manager to do all things to complete this project. So I will turn this now over to the general manager, Arden Wallen.
Okay, thanks, Nancy, President. This item is basically just to get permission to move forward with the remaining seismic valve controllers. Danny can give you some of the specifics. But my only comment is what I referred to before, is that this is the kind of emergency that we prepare for, and we've got to have these in place. It doesn't do any good to do it this after the emergency. We need those earthquake valves in place. So I consider this an essential project, and now we know that, you know, things like this can occur, even though the pandemic we're going through is a different type of emergency. So with that said, Mr. Friend will give you the details of the proposal.
Thank you, Arden. Madam President, members of the board, what we're asking the board to consider today is exactly the contract for $229,241.60 as you expressed, plus 10% contingency totaling $252,166. Staff over the last, ongoing now for many years, but more so over the last year and a half with Bassam Alzamar, identifying our operational processes and how we are doing maintenance programs, where we have deficiencies. And this is one of those areas, like Arden said, we've got 7 remaining reservoirs. We've brought a contract like this in front of the board many times over the past several years, because we used to do these 1 or 2 at a time and didn't really make sense. So this contract is to outfit our remaining 7 reservoirs. And I know that it may seem a little different on what's listed on there. Some of these reservoir sites have more than 1 reservoir site on them. That's why there's not 7 sites. But we're installing 7 earthquake or seismic valves. They actuate or trigger when there's a 4.0 magnitude or greater earthquake. As an example, back, I think it was April 3rd, beginning of April, it was a Friday or such, we had some people say 4.6, 4.9, but we had an earthquake near Anza. Shook the Coachella Valley, definitely shook the high desert really well. And our SCADA system notified our operators that we had earthquake valves activate. And we had 8 of them activate. They throttled down, which is the term we use in this industry, which is closes down but not all the way, leaving roughly 25% opening. You don't want it to close. As I said in the past years when we brought this to the board, you don't want a valve to close all the way because, well, the idea is you want the water to stop. But if you stop the water and the pipeline ruptures, then you create a situation where there's no water to keep water in the pipes, and we start bringing mud and things. So it kind of worsens our situation. So the main idea is to conserve or preserve our water in our reservoirs so that we can go out there and do a system assessment, go out and see if we have leaks, assess those, minimize those before we run out of water. And I mentioned the April 3rd earthquake, and that's exactly what happened. Our production team, within minutes, my phone was ringing. Bassam was talking to me. Our production department was going well to well. We had other members of our construction and maintenance team going out and going through areas that are prone to leaks. And throughout the course of several hours that night, they essentially stopped at every facility that we have. And all that was able to be done remotely, activated with a sensor, viewed through a SCADA system. But very impressed with my team that day. So we're asking for consideration for the last 7 reservoirs. This is an approved project in the capital budget, the fiscal 2020 budget. As Arden mentioned earlier, we feel this is essential. There's many projects that have been approved and have been justified to authorize a capital budget approval. But as Arden was getting at, there's some projects that we may want to back off the accelerator a little bit and get a better perspective on what's going on before we move forward. This is one that I can't recommend that we do not move forward with.
Okay, thank you, Danny. Okay, I'm going to go through the board members, see if they have any comments. Director Martin, any questions or comments?
No.
Director Duncan?
Real quick, is that parts or the valves and labor, or are we installing them? What's this bottom line price? Is this parts and labor out the door, if you will?
All inclusive. This is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Madam President. Did you have?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Danny. I was looking at. Go ahead. Never mind.
I know where you're headed, Madam President. The summary explains that it's all inclusive labor, material, installation, tax as well.
Okay, Director Grosh. Oh, Dan, are you done, Randy? You shut him off.
Yeah. One quick question, just out of curiosity. You know, I realize that it depends on the size of the tank and the size of the pipes coming out of it. If you throttle back to 25% and there is a run on a tank, how long will an average tank take to drain?
That is loaded.
Is it all variable depending on the size of the tank? Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
There's so many factors. The size, the pipe size. I mean, if the outlet of the pipe is 12-inch versus 16 versus 24, if the reservoir is half full versus 3/4 full or full, there's so many factors that I'll tell you what, possibly by, all joking aside, possibly by August, I can probably provide you all the different scenarios, but no, it depending on all the factors that I mentioned, but the idea is roughly 25% is a good throttling of a valve to maintain positive pressure in the system, provided there's no entire line severed. So that's pretty much the norm. And it's for water preservation. So there could be a pipe that breaks right outside the reservoir, completely severed, and whatever that, and if we have to at that time, that system is completely useless. So we would shut that valve all the way. The 25% is in case there is and let me actually, that's a good question. Let me say this. There has been times where these valves were throttled all the way, right? Earthquake, let's save our water. So we had a situation where we had low pressure to no pressure. Finally realized, hey, before the SCADA system was enhanced the way it is today, why don't we have water? So it took us a little bit after thinking about it. Shoot, we've got a seismic valve that closed on us. So that's one of the reasons also why we don't have it closed all the way. You can have something that activates it, no leaks at all, and cause more problems than you were anticipating.
Okay, is that it, Randy?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Director Grasha, have any comments or questions?
I found a comment interesting when it comes to the whether this is something that wouldn't fall in the category of what Matt gave a report during the personnel committee hearing, or human resources, I guess, that I thought I would like to hear him give again tonight, but I don't think a person can duplicate exactly.
What are you? Which item?
Well,
Steve,
it is.
we're on item 6.
Right, and there was a question about whether this was something we had to do now before we know where we're really going to be financially.
Okay, gotcha.
And I'm not sure that. You know, I heard Danny suggest that this was something that we had to do, and I just wondered, is there an example of something that we don't have to do? Because this, to me, seems like something we clearly don't have to do. So I can understand, well, gee, there might be an earthquake and we would love to have them, but we haven't had them in 70 years. And I'm not saying I'm not going to vote for it. you know, it's like, well, when are we going to face the reality that we don't know where we're in the dark here on this subject of, also how much of our cash is tied up in these Blackstone accounts versus how much, you know, do we have a 90-day cash on hand in you know, in the district's checking account, or because when I look at the financial report, it doesn't really, you know, there's a lot of money parked in investment accounts. How accessible is that? I understand the Fed has been doing some buybacks, but where exactly is our position on that in terms of, do we have to go to Blackstone to get a check for 250 grand when we vote?
Okay, Director Grasha, let's get Matt back on here. Matt, are finances okay to pay for this?
Was the question, do we have adequate finances to pay for this project?
Yes. Is that what you were asking? Yeah. I think that's what he was trying to get at.
Do we have to go to Blackstone to get money to pay for this kind of an improvement? Is that where our money's parked for this kind of capital improvement, or is this something that we do out of our petty cash in the checking account?
We don't ever specifically withdraw certain funds to pay for certain projects. We just manage that cash internally. Your concerns with BlackRock, as far as liquidity goes, they have maintained their liquidity and they guarantee us levels of liquidity. So we draw down on those funds and deposit to those funds as needed to cover all the expenses of the district, including these capital projects. So this definitely would be included in expected expenditures and should not cause a liquidity issue for the district at this time. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Yeah. Steve, does that answer your question? And do you have any more comments?
Yeah, thank you. I would suggest anybody that's interested to go back and listen to that meeting. It was fascinating.
Okay, thank you. Duly noted. Okay, so any other question? Oh, Ivan's Director Sewell, do you have any?
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. So, and there's nobody in the waiting room, I take it, right? That wants to say anything or can say anything? No? You didn't get any emails for questions on that item. Okay, so we'll go to item 7, selection of district financial statement auditors for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. It is recommended that the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract agreement with Rogers, Anderson, Malloyd, and Scott, LLP, to provide the financial statement audit for the year ending June 30th, 2020, and engage the firm in all things necessary to complete that audit. General Manager.
Thank you, President Wright. This is our standard audit each year. The process takes several months, and they usually are very, very thorough. So we've had this, and we've also had special audits. We've always come out very, very clean. It is required by law that we change auditors this year, so that is what we're doing. And Matt has gone through this process. He can then explain to you now how that process went and why they selected this particular firm. Matt, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Arden. Briefly, this process was the RFP process that we undertook, even though our procurement policy does not require an RFP process because these are considered professional services. We thought it would be best for transparency purposes, and also just the fact that technically this auditor works for the board and not for staff. So we're bringing this to you after going through our process of reviewing 3 RFPs that were submitted. We sent out a request for proposal to 16 firms throughout Southern California. Unfortunately, only 3 of them replied, but 3 is not bad for comparison purposes. So staff had a scoring system and have gone through that. And Rogers, Anderson, Malady, and Scott out of Riverside were rated the best firm out of those 3. Therefore, we are recommending a $24,000 contract with them to complete the fiscal 2020 financial statement audit.
That's a good price. Okay, thanks. Okay, Director Martin, questions, comments? Director Sewell, questions, comments? Director Gracia, questions or comments?
Give me just a moment to unmute his mic.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
I do have a question. Last year, when we were going through the process of the audit, we didn't see a financial report, I think, for maybe 3 months. I'm thinking it was longer than that, but between January and September for sure. This year, that's a delicate issue if that's going to be repeated. And I wondered if, you know, I think we should be meeting weekly on this subject. So to think that we're going to go all summer without a financial report, I'm not comfortable with it all. So maybe staff has something to say about that. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and that's finished with the board. So which way did I go? Director Duncan, I gotta remember who I called on. No. I guess that's it. Ivan, you said no too, right? Okay. I don't know. I would think that during this time with this pandemic and stuff, I would think that if the finances got into a situation where Matt felt that he needed to address the board or tell the board about it, I'm sure that would happen during that time period. So maybe leaving it something like that might help, but we can discuss that on Monday also. And maybe Matt might have some suggestions to just keep us abreast during the audit time on what's kind of going on with the finances and the pandemic. So that might be something to look at. We can talk about it on Monday, unless Matt has anything to say about it right now. Arden, do you have anything?
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna keep reporting while this pandemic is going on. We'll be very careful to, you know, bring to you reports. We report to you almost daily now, and every month we can bring to you anything alarming that comes into play. So, you know, we are going to report to you more than normal, and we'll be careful to address, you know, the financial aspects of this pandemic, because I can just tell you where it's probably going to be some issues regarding, you know, people having trouble paying their bills. And I think we're going to work it out fairly well. It seems to be going okay, and people seem to be very receptive to the fact that we're not turning them off, but you know, we are expecting that we can work something out with regard to their payment schedule, and you know, and we'll move on from there. A little bit of this I will also address again when we talk about the United Way program. But I you know, I think we'll try to provide you with additional information every month, and that will include a financial, you know, input. And if we see anything, we will be sure to bring it to your attention. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I know you're keeping an eye on it, and so is Matt.
Very close.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so we will now go to item number 7. Selection of, item number 8. Financial Assistance Fund Replenishment. Okay, General Manager.
Okay, thank you very much. This program is, I'm proud to say, was initiated by us and is now used by, I think, nearly every other water purveyor in the valley. We were struggling to know how we could help those customers that come upon hard times and didn't have money to pay their bills. So legally, we are restricted to what we can do, and we wanted to somehow start a fund for the less fortunate individuals. Once we did have a fund available, we needed to find a way to determine how to distribute it, and that is where United Way came into the picture. They have the infrastructure in place to do this exact thing. That's what they do as a business. The program started out by individuals voluntarily giving to the fund. Those of us who do give to the United Way can specify that it be used for this purpose, and that I do that because I do give to United Way. For several reasons, we depended on voluntary replenishment of this fund for several years. That became kind of challenging. We later determined that we could use non-rate revenues if we desired, and that is when we took it to the board, and the board gave me direction to use a portion of the revenues we get from our cell towers, which was considerably more than that, to replenish that fund. I was originally directed to start out with $5,000 annually, we thought, and to provide additional funding as necessary. Because of special circumstances this year, I intend to increase that to $10,000, which I think will help with our non-payments. And I would also like to raise the annual maximum from $50 to $75 because of, again, the special circumstances related to the COVID-19 pandemic. These changes are the result of our experience with the program, and it has worked well for years. It provides us with an answer to those customers when they do ask for help. And everything is legal, and using United Way provides us an independent oversight of the program. This is what they do, and have the resources to conduct the program and make the program work. That is all I have. Are there any questions?
I have a comment here. I think it's CVAP has I'm not sure if it's ever not, but has a support fund. It's called the Coachella Valley Economic Protection Plan. Did anybody hear about that? It's got $600,000 right now, I believe, and they take donations. And it's through the United Way. This program, they're doling out the money through the United Way, and people can apply for $200 for Coachella Valley residents who have lost their jobs or face financial difficulties during the COVID-19 emergency thing. So that might be something that we could talk to United Way about, and they might be able to help people with that, some of our customers with that program. It's called this Coachella Valley Economic Protection Program through United Way.
President Wright, we do have a staff wishing to address. I'm going to unmute Victoria Lord.
Okay.
Hey, President Wright. I could provide a little bit more insight. Maybe I can address some of those questions being on the United Way board on behalf of the district. So the EPP is done through, it's a regional collaborative effort, and they've raised quite a significant amount of money, and it's distributed through United Way of the Desert. This provides up to a maximum, I believe, or 200, not up to a maximum, it's $200 individual checks to those who qualify. So there's a few different steps. Initially, this person will call in, and they'll kind of be triaged through the various resources that are currently available, whether that be the water assistance program or other, food assistance, all the different resources that we have here in the Valley. And then if there's still, not a right fit from those resources, then that fund is triggered, I guess you could say. So yeah, it's a $200 payment. And we did talk about, at our last board meeting, we did talk about the water assistance fund, or the Help to Others program. And this contribution for the EPP Economic Protection Program does not interface with the Help to Others program. So the funding pools and pots, so to say, are separate, just to, I guess, provide some of that clarification to what you were addressing. And if you have any other questions that I didn't answer, I'm happy to if I can.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think we ought to at least try to get the word out to our customers that that is exists there going through the United Way, that program. So, thank you. Director Martin, do you have any comments or questions?
No, but I think Randy does.
Okay, I'm on Randy next. Director Duncan.
Yeah, I'm over here doing this. Arden said there was a $50 limit. I'm assuming that's per customer, per account. Is that an annual total or is that per billing cycle?
Annual total.
Annual, wow, okay.
It's not much, but it does help for those people that is everyone, you know, that aren't frequent flyers, so to speak.
Right, oh, I understand.
And it,
I like to raise the 75 too. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
at least.
Yeah. Director Grasha, do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I have a question about how much of that fund that's collected within the district from, I guess, employees is actually goes out in a benefit, and how much of it is taken up by the United Way through management and oversight of the program. That's what I'd like to know.
Pardon?
Well, I think we'd have to go to United Way. I don't think, we did check on that, and but I might be wrong, but I thought that the reason we liked United Way was that they were I don't know that they use any of the money. I think the money goes out, but Victoria could probably answer. I hate to put you on the spot, Victoria, but do you know the answer to that?
I don't offhand. I was just checking the website. I believe that they have their own staff member who does that, but I don't know. I know Crystal, the executive director, at the golf tournament, actually, when April and I were speaking to her about our specific Help to Others fund, that Crystal is willing to come to one of our board meetings, or I guess Zoom into one of our board meetings and address any questions that we may have if we want to have her as a guest.
Yeah, I don't. Go on.
Go ahead. It's okay that there's not a real answer right now, but as days go by and the months and weeks, maybe if you hear, what the answer to that question is, maybe we could get a report back to the board. It's something that I think is important. When people are given money for something like that, they expect it to actually go to a benefit and not to some guy's wallet in Indian Wells.
And most times, nonprofit organizations have, at least well-run ones, right? They have a overhead that should be between 10 to 15%, which is very minimal in terms of, but that's just speculation based off of what I've seen about different nonprofit overheads. And if I may as well, if I'm not speaking out of turn, so we offer at this time a $50 credit one time per a 12-month cycle. Other agencies, for example, Coachella Water Agency does $50 as well, but 3 times per calendar year. So there are different variations that we can do as well. I know Desert Water's 50 credit 2 times per calendar year as well. So just giving you insight on what the other agencies do as well.
Okay, thank you. That's some good options there. I like those. Once a year is, kind of hard. But one of the other reasons we picked the United Way is because the program was already in place. They already have all the qualifications. They have that whole program of how people qualify, low-income people would qualify for this kind of money. They had already had that in place because that's what they do a lot. So it was relatively, I don't think it cost anything just to kind of slide in there. I'm not sure. Arden, do we get a monthly or an annual write-up on the money that goes out of that fund? How do you know when it's empty or?
Oh, they tell us. April will know. And I'd have to refer to April to see if.
That's okay.
Well, I do know that we get noticed when the fund is depleted. They let us know, and of course, and they have let us know that fund is low. That's why we need to replenish it. But we'll get those answers to you. We'll try to get those answers to you by Monday.
Okay, great.
And Victoria, would you please? I'll put you kind of in charge of doing that. Okay, since you do have an inside whatever contact there.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay, Dr. Sewell, do you have a comment on this topic? No, I think I got everybody on the board. If I didn't, raise your hand or yell. Anyway, okay, so we'll go on to number 9 then. Mission Springs Water District West Valley Water Reclamation Plan. General Manager.
Well, I'm going to let Danny speak to that. We have had some progress. There have been some significant developments, but I'll let Danny share with you what those are.
Good afternoon again. I'm going to hit some of those. Well, as we know, these reports report on the month past, and some of those developments that Arden's referring to are what just happened here in the last couple of weeks. So since I'll be providing a much more comprehensive report on that next month, I'll touch on that in the end. As we reported last month, and as in front of you in the report, the 90% plans comments from the district have been returned. AECOM, the design engineer, is working towards the 100% design. There's still work happening while that's going on. There's the water quality management plan, the WQMP. That has been completed and we're plan reviewing. And for those that have their agendas in front of them, there's just a kind of a plan view of that below this, the second bullet. And you can see that shows the proposed drainage flow paths through and around the project site. If I wanted to simply hit on this, all the properties that make up the regional treatment plant location have a blue line streams that run through them. So we are required to redirect them and then try to put them back in their natural paths. So that's one of the things that are happening after the project's completed, and show that we have the ability to maintain control of any type of stormwater. So that's something that staff's reviewing currently while the 100% plans are working on to be submitted back to us. We submitted responses back to the Regional Water Quality Control Board for our waste discharge requirement permit, and provided all that back to the board, or to the regional board. And we still continue to monitor the progress of our SRF grant with the state and trying to provide all the, still waiting for them to provide us additional information. As far as the waste discharge requirements, that's what Arden was alluding to. We did actually get those returned to us. And there is a public comment period currently. And, excuse me, I was just referring back to my other notes. The comments to the comment period are due on the 2nd of May, and the public hearing is at 9 a.m. at Palm Desert on the 14th of May. There's a few things that staff is looking at to make sure and clarify for better direction, as stated in the public comment period. We're asking regional board staff whether that could be addressed as an amendment, or is that something that we address also during the public comment period. So I'll bring more information on that next month when we actually are talking about items that happened in April.
Danny, that meeting is going to be on Zoom. The May 14th regional board meeting is going to be Zoomed. It's on Zoom.
So I'll be attending.
It's a telephonic, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam President. Continuing on with the other component of our regional plant, which is the West Valley conveyance line. Last month, we talked about our partnership with the city. We've got to get an alignment. There was somebody that asked what that alignment looks like coming down Little Morongo south of Dillon Road. And when I put this report together, I realized that I believe, Madam President, you're asking for the alignment from where it starts at the lift station all the way running westerly along Dillon, then south on Little Morongo, and I failed to do that. So I will provide a different document for Monday's meeting. But the exhibit that's attached to the last bullet item under West Valley conveyance line, again, this process is to acquire an easement for our sewer main that would be going and being constructed in Little Morongo south of Dillon. And there are some challenges that we may find it a little easier to work with the city and have them join us in making that a road easement. We're only dealing with 3 parcels, not with more other parcels in this process. The exhibit that I did include shows you that there are it shows the larger of the three parcels just south of Dillon Road. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. My screen is not cooperating as I scroll through. And just a moment. All right, one of the plats which is included below is highlighting the requested 40-foot right-of-way west side of Little Morongo. So that's just, again, to provide you just some perspective on what that looks like. I will put something together for Monday so that we can show you the full alignment of that conveyance line.
Okay.
So with that, that's all I have for this month's report. I'm happy to answer any
Thank
questions.
you. Director Sewell, do you have any questions for Danny?
Thank you.
Director Grasha? Questions?
No, thank you.
Director Duncan? Director Martin? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Danny. We'll go on to item number 10, consent agenda. Is there anybody going to want to pull anything off this consent agenda this month? No? Director Grasha?
Give me a moment. I'm unmuting all directors.
Okay.
Okay.
perfect.
No.
All directors have been unmuted.
Okay.
I'm
Director
good on
Grasha,
that, so-
would anybody like to pull anything? You guys that I can see, you can raise your hand. And Director Grasha, would you like to pull anything?
No, I'm fine on that.
Okay, so we won't. So we'll vote on the consent agenda then on Monday. Next one's financial report. You got to unmute Arden. Thank you.
I really
If I have to.
If you have to. No, I'm just saying, I know you're all excited to hear from Matt on this.
I know, but you go first, Arden.
No, I'm done. Matt, you have the floor.
Okay.
Good afternoon again, everybody. Briefly, we have completed the financial report through February 29th, 2020. If you can see me, sorry, I had some technical difficulties right before this meeting, but this landscape format sheet that I'm holding up in my camera is the sheet that I'm looking at.
I wish I would have known.
So very quickly, I believe it was Director Grasha mentioned earlier that the financial report didn't necessarily show where our cash and investments are held, but I'd like to make clear that we do show that on this report in this section here. It'd be the first section above the pie charts at the bottom. We do show the balance of each of the CalTrust funds as well as our Wells Fargo bank account balance. So just for future reference, that is where that is reported. Up through February, we really weren't dealing with this COVID-19 issue yet. Operations were somewhat normal, and all financial indicators through February 29th show just that. Nothing unexpected as far as comparisons to budget. We are running ahead of budget for the year. Obviously, in current situation, that's changing, and it is to be determined how that is going to change and therefore affect the rest of the year. But up through this February 29th time frame, everything was proceeding as expected, maintaining cash positions. We are still maintaining cash positions up through today. Our investments in CalTrust obviously is our biggest liquid asset. Those values did take a dip around the first, but with the quantitative easing and some of the other vehicles that the Fed has put into place to keep the short-term market and the money market liquid and functioning are helping so far. We've even seen an uptick in share value within our mutual funds since the 1st of April up through yesterday, some slight increases in NAVs. So We are definitely maintaining and preserving our principal balances. We do not, and actually cannot, per government code and our investment policy, we cannot invest in equities. So when you're seeing dives in the Dow Jones Industrial Average or whatever index you might see, that's not where we are invested, and we actually can't be invested there. So the markets that we're invested in are actually seeing inflows, and people are leaving the equity markets and the bond markets because they're performing so poorly and coming into the short-term government markets. With the stimulus bills coming out, it's expected that your Treasury is going to be issuing trillions of dollars of new Treasury paper. And so that will be another influx into this market, which will hopefully keep it fluid and liquid. And that concludes my report, and I'll answer any questions I can.
Thank you. I'll start with Director Grasha. Do you have any questions for Matt? Is he unmuted?
I can't seem to unmute his mic. He may have muted himself.
Steve, are you there?
Yeah. There's a button here that says, do I want to be unmuted? I have to give approval now for her to mute me or unmute me, apparently. I don't know what that is. Yeah, it shows here $18,000 in the checking account. Is that how we pay our employees? What do we do with our checking account? And we have $33 million tucked away in various Cal Trust accounts, 3 different trust accounts. And I guess, is that the funds that you have invested in various, I don't know what market you call that, with BlackRock, I assume. How do you run the place with $18,000 in the checking account? I don't understand that part. I mean, so
Matt?
thank you for the information. I'm glad you directed me to that.
Okay, well, Matt,
Okay.
you want to answer that question?
Sure. This $18,000 is strictly a snapshot in time, and on that day, that happened to be what our bank account balance was. That changes almost hourly. In fact, definitely hourly, and maybe by the minute, with customer payments coming in, tax payments coming in, and so on and so forth. But yes, we have one main account here that we pay both payables and payroll from, and my accounting manager and myself manage that cash flow with anticipated expenditures and pull down funds from Cal Trust, and we have overnight access to those funds. They're very liquid, and so yes, at that instant in time, it was at an $18,000 balance, but that fluctuates. You know, that could have as much as $3 million in it, depending on what expenditures are coming up and or which payments are being received at that snapshot in time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we
Director
have a
Grasha,
portfolio?
did that answer your question?
Yeah, I wondered if there's a portfolio of investments that I could look at that would give me an idea of where this $33 million is sitting. I understand that the bond market has fluctuated quite a bit. I also know that the Fed has been bailing it out by the minute. I guess some of the baseball stadiums and things they built are not looking as if they were good ideas at this point. And I'm just wondering if we're involved in any of that kind of market.
I don't think so. That sounds
Okay.
something that public monies can be put into.
Well,
Correct.
that's it.
Okay.
But I can show you down to the investment exactly what is in those funds. It's on Cal Trust's website, but I can get that information to you with no problem.
How about Monday?
Okay. That's fine. I did look at their website. I wasn't able to see any of that, so that would be great. If you
Okay,
could
thanks.
get a list of where we're parked.
Thank
Sure.
you. Thank you. Okay, Director Sewell, any questions for Matt?
No questions, but I did notice Arturo wrote in the chat about the unrestricted versus restricted funds. So if you look above,
I saw it pop up, but I didn't get a chance to read it in time.
if you look above the trusts and the Wells Fargo, there is that 655,000 unrestricted cash. So just something to take note of.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else that I can see want to say a comment? Okay. Thank you. We'll go on now to item 12, Public Affairs Report. Arden, do you want to say anything first or just give it to Victoria?
Give it to Victoria.
Okay, Victoria, you're on.
Perfect. Okay, so President Wright, members of the board, I touched upon this during the COVID-19 item number 4, I believe it was. But if you wanted to go through the packet, I don't know how some of us have it, but you have the billboard, the bill message, and the bill insert are part of this packet. The web page, obviously, you can go to the web page, and from the web page, you can see the press releases and the daily updates. So in case you want to take a look at it. I did just want to point out in our MSWD digital advertising report, which is after the buck slip. So as I talk about every month, we do different ad campaigns that show up on Facebook and on Google. And so being that this was the month of March, the very beginning of the month of March, before everything kind of unfolded, we had the award-winning water served daily. So you'll see that one right there on top. We quickly switched that over to Your Tap Water is Safe. Coronavirus will not impact your water supply. So those we're running simultaneously on Google and on Facebook. So if you go to the next page of the report, you'll see the Facebook ads. Same thing, we started with the award-winning water, but then we switched over to 2 different messages. One, the reminder that COVID-19 is not in your water supply, and 2, kind of piggybacking on our bill assistance United Way conversation earlier, the ad with the picture of April reinforces that we have a bill assistance program here at the district, so that during this time, if there's any support that's needed, they can reach out to us. So that link, those both link back directly to our website, one on the coronavirus page, one on the bill assistance page. So I just wanted to let you know that those are different messages that we're running on social media, opposed from the like tangible outreach ones that we've been doing, like the billboard and the bill insert. And that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
I just want to say that I've seen the one with April in it. I'll have to keep my eye out for the other ones. Director Martin, do you have any comments or questions?
No.
Director Duncan? Or no? Okay. Who else? Ivan? No. Director Grasha?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll go to monthly reports, number 13. Mr. Wallum.
I don't really have anything. I mean, I am actually surprised that, well, we did use a considerable amount of water, more than the previous month, and it seemed like it was a fairly cold month the previous time, but our flows still increased. Might be, that would, and then March would be a time when we would see the COVID, isolation thing going on. So that might be one reason we've seen an increase. I'm trying to determine whether we are going to see an increase in the flows. So then I went to the Horton plant, and it is up there, but it's not the highest that we've ever seen. So, it's pretty stable. So I'm not sure that we're seeing too many more people moving around at home or longer. So we'll see. And that really is all I have, unless you have. Okay.
Anybody else have any comments that I can see on these? Director Grasha, do you have any comments on the monthly reports?
Not on that. Thank you. The
They
dogs
don't.
have something to say.
Or your dogs don't have one either. Okay. Maybe they do. Okay, and number 14, upcoming events and directors reports. Anybody raise your hand that I can see if you want to do a monthly report today? Okay, Director Martin, you're up.
This marks the first for me of doing it on a Thursday, but since I didn't have a lot going on March 3rd, I attended a city council meeting. It was only of note because it was a very short meeting, unusual for city council meetings. On March 5th, Desert Valley Builders Association legislative meeting. Interesting, but nothing significant to report there. March 5th, I also attended with most of the rest of you, the Big Hearts Award, Rotary. That was a wonderful event, as it is every year, to acknowledge the people that go above and beyond their responsibilities in their employment. And it was a very interesting and enjoyable evening. March 7th, the Women's Club Fashion Show. I'm not all that into women's fashion, but I do love the event, and I love the cause that it supports, the scholarships and things of that nature. March 10th, the Desert Contractors Association Network Night. Only of note because it was a very small turnout. March 11th, Convention and Visitors Bureau Networking Night. That was held at a private estate in Palm Springs. That was a very, very nice event. And March 12th, Desert Valley Builders Association Membership Luncheon. And there was a presentation by Aaron Hawk, who is the Riverside County Transportation Commission. And the main topic of his presentation were efforts underway to streamline traffic through main corridors in the Coachella Valley. Of particular note to me was Highway 111 getting from Palm Canyon all the way through, from Palm Springs all the way to La Quinta. And I've noticed, and I brought it to his attention, that certain cities do better at synchronizing their signals. One of the best, in my opinion, is Rancho Mirage. If you're going the speed limit, you can hit just about every green light through their jurisdiction. Some of the other cities do a little bit not as good, and some of them are terrible. I won't bring their names up, but that was interesting because he said that's one of the major things that they're considering or working on is coordinating the cities and getting signal synchronization through the main corridors. So I was very pleased to hear that. Anyway, that concludes my report.
Thank you. It looks like the only other one on here would be Vice President Duncan. You don't want to do anything today? Okay. Okay, so we'll go on to the next item, correspondence. Anybody have any questions or comment? Oh, how cute. I haven't had a chance to read these. We have a lot of, looks like we have a lot of thank you notes from kids. Yay. Very nice. Okay, next item is district council comments. Mr. Pinkney, are you still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Are you gonna,
John, you muted yourself. There we go.
Yeah, sorry about that. So on Monday, we do intend to have a closed session, and that's going to be to discuss item 19C, which is the potential class, the class-related claim that we received, and so we'll be updating the board at that time about that matter. But otherwise, none today.
Nothing today. Okay, thank you. General Manager's report.
Thank you, President Wright. My first item is kind of a big compliment for MSWD and especially the engineering staff. We received a call this week from, I have two things. We received a call this week from Daryl Buxton, and he called to inform, and from the Corps of Engineers, Army Corps of Engineers. He called to inform us that that there is a third type of stimulus bill. Didn't provide much more clarification than that, This is related to the pandemic funding, and in their effort to keep the economy going, they call us because we have the reputation of being very prepared and capable of putting projects together quickly. We need to be shovel ready. We need to start within 4 or 5 months, and we need to be able to complete the project within 24 months. Thanks to my excellent staff, again, this is easily doable. He was a little vague as to how much that pot of money would be. We're hoping $1.5 to $2 million, no promises. We informed him that we could do it easily. And the Corps of Engineers, I guess, is ready to move this month on it. No promises, but we will be in constant contact with him. Danny is the one that shared this with me and who's the one that talked to Daryl. And again, this is because of the good reputation that we have with the Corps of Engineers. They know that we can put together projects and they're done well. So kudos to the staff and let's hope we get some money. The second thing is I just wanted to maybe provide what maybe you have or haven't heard. Some of this you've probably heard during the presentation, but I just wanted to provide you with some emergency directives that I have in place because of this pandemic. So I've already shared these with you, but I'll reiterate that I need to begin that the direction that we are an essential service has come from the president on down. So we need to work in this pandemic. We were lean going into this pandemic. So lean, in fact, my first concern was to be sure that whatever we do, I needed to know that my staff was safe. And we've been trying to do everything we can to accomplish that. Along with my essential only policy, we implemented a split staff approach, which Brian has talked to you about, where every other week, half the staff reports to the district and the other half works at home. It's working quite well. Again, we have no one really out as at this point that is sick. And again, we are lean, but I do have direction to staff that we will not add additional staff that are not essential. But keep in mind that in some cases, I need specific certified employees performing certain tasks. I may run into a situation where I just don't have that expertise available. We've discussed using previous retired employees, but in that case, we do have other agencies or firms that can provide us with these licensed employees. This was in place in part because of our ongoing preparedness, but we did need to declare an emergency in order for those to be available. So far, we've not had to consider that option, and we feel pretty comfortable so far. And our essential only policy, we have eliminated all non-essential expenses. And of course, that's a judgment call. And we will be facing increased financial hardships, but we are not going to shut anyone off for non-payment, which you've already heard. We're going to try to provide more, enhance our program to help those people out. We work with them individually and make adjustments, set up payment plans. By the law, we cannot give water away. But we can work with the customer and we can make certain certain waivers and work with them. So we need to shift to an essential only, but I do need some flexibility to work quickly, because if I need a certified employer at, for example, the plant at all times. And my last comment is, I just want to thank the board for being great leaders during this time. And I want to thank my staff for really making this thing work. And it's really gone considerably smoother, and we are getting some things done. And I think we're going to be financially very stable through this. We will get through this together. Thank you. That's all I have, President Wright.
Okay, thank you, Arden. Director's comments. We'll start with Russ. I was going to say Director Martin. I got to try to remember to be more formal here.
Yeah, that's all right. I just want to say kudos to staff for what they've been able to accomplish and the way that they've managed the situation in a very difficult time. And also, of all the meetings and stuff that since this started, I've been on different sites to do teleconferencing and video conferencing and everything. And this by far is the smoothest I've seen. So good work, Dory, and anybody else that helped put this together. Just really the best I've seen so far. And I've probably gone through about 20 of these in the last month or so. So congratulations.
Okay,
That's all
Vice
I have.
President Duncan. Randy, do you have a comment?
I was waiting for my mic to, the little red slash to go in. Yeah, again, kudos to staff, like Russ said. You guys have literally restructured the entire district overnight with the A and B shifts, you know, closing down the lobby, doing everything you've done. You've rebuilt the district overnight. The district or the department heads, you know, I know it's another report you got to give to the board, but I do appreciate the COVID reports that you guys each started the meeting with. That was nice to get that. Victoria, your daily updates, we do read those emails, so they're not just, you're not wasting your time sending those out. Do appreciate those. And then last but not least, somebody we don't get to see very often, Kurt, see you up there. It was a lot of work getting all these people synchronized, you know, on this one thing. I know this is what you do. This is a tech thing, but still, you had to call each director, each employee. You got the district computers. You got our home computer set up. Thank you for getting that set up, again, virtually overnight. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Director Sewell, comments?
I really just echo the previous two comments. It's good to have not only all of your voices, but your faces here as well. Good to see everyone. And, you know, thank you for all the adjustments being made, and happy that everyone's still healthy and safe. And I hope it stays that way. Thank you.
Director Grasha, comment?
Yes, definitely good work on part of the staff to catch up on this subject. It was came as a surprise to a lot of people, and you guys really did step up and take care of business nicely. On the subject of the economics going forward, I you know, there's two ways this is going to play out. One is someday the president's going to turn the switch back on and everybody's going to go back to where they were. And the other option is that he's going to turn the switch back on and not everybody's going to be able to get back where they were, which in my view is going to cause an economic calamity, possibly. And if I had to bet, I would bet on the second and not the first. I know that the district has been through pains before. I know in 2008, I remembered reading some things that had to be done to adjust. My fear is that back then, you know, how long did you wait before the adjustments started taking place? I don't want to see us you know, waiting until we run out of money before we start buckling up our belt. I would rather see us out in front of the situation. I realize right now would be too soon to be jumping into making any changes too swiftly, but I think we need to keep an eye on this. I'm not sure that I'm not sure that giving a rosy picture is the right thing to do for very long. I don't think we can get away with another board meeting next month with and pretending that things are going to be fine. I think we need to meet on these subjects often enough that the board can begin to adjust it's thinking. It's been a spendy little group of people over the past, well, since I've been here. It's surprising to add 7 positions, I think was the number total. And to pretend that we're going to be able to afford that going forward, I'm wondering if we're not, getting into an area where we're going to be in trouble trying to keep those funded, unless we go into
Okay,
using
Steve,
funds that, in my view.
Go ahead, keep going, but just make sure you stay on track. Don't get off on the
I think
subject.
it's director's comments, and if you don't care to hear it, that's fine. I'll write it in an editorial.
That wasn't what I was saying, but okay, go ahead. Go ahead, finish. Director Grasha, hello. Did he leave?
It appears I've lost that connection. He must have disconnected himself. Oh. I can't unmute him now. There we go.
I'm here now.
Okay, thought we
No.
lost you there.
I hit the mute button and instead the camera came on. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, since the president doesn't want to hear my thoughts, then I think I've had enough to say anyway. I think I got my point across. I don't want to see the district burning through cash, that ill-gotten gains, in my view, to pay salaries for employees that we're not going to keep around, be able to afford to keep around anyway. I think we need to keep up with that, and I don't think this board has shown its ability to do that. I don't want to sit around in 4 or 5 months or 6 months even and say, well, we thought things were going well. For instance, we've been served with a lawsuit, I don't know how long ago, haven't been briefed on it. That to me is unconscionable that would be held back this length of time before the board has been updated on litigation brought against the district. So how can I trust that we'll be told soon enough to be able to make some appropriate changes in a financial catastrophe that I think is inevitable? So that's the point I'm trying to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments, and duly noted. And I don't think any of us want to see the district get in any bad shape. So I think we're all kind of on the same page in some respects. So, okay, who else did I call on everybody? Okay, I think I did. For myself,
Just yourself.
okay, for myself, I just have to ditto everything everybody says. I'm not going to go over it again. You guys, staff, Arden, you and your staff have done a wonderful job transitioning into this. I hope this is our first telephonic meeting like this. So, I'm hoping we get to back into the boardroom eventually. We'll see how long this lasts. But I think everybody's doing a great job. We do have, maybe, should I open the improvements? We have another meeting, our improvement core meeting we have once a year in April. We're gonna have a closed session on Monday. And so then if we come back out and do this meeting, should we just do like a study session on this meeting? And so we got that over with, or should we just wait till Monday?
Well, we didn't post the agenda yet, so we can't have a study session on it.
Okay. Thank
Agenda,
you.
yeah, the improvement corp will be posted today, and then we'll meet on it on Monday.
Okay, yeah, okay. It's just we're just voting on the minutes of the meeting of last year is what we're basically doing. So, okay, thank you. Gosh, looks like we're at the end of the meeting here. On Monday, we'll go into closed session on item 19C. So with nothing else, no further ado, I guess I will say meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.